All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. I'm actually really excited about this one. Alex and I have not chatted for a long time. We were just catching up off air for a little bit to see where we're at. But Alex and I met in university. I mean, I started in 2014. We met somewhere in there in my journey between 2014 and 19. But basically, he is crazy about space. And he did his just finished up his master's. We'll get into that a little bit, but it was around some satellite stuff, which was super cool. But I saw one of his posts pop up the other day, and he basically has been doing astrophotography for what is it, like a year now, Alex?
Yeah, about a year.
Yeah, so he's been doing that, and I've seen posts here and there, and he just started selling some of his prints, and I was like, man, we got to chat about this. I'm curious to know more. I'm sure there's other people who have that hidden, love of space and everything that's outside the realm of what we can touch and feel. So, man, I'm super excited to have you on here.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks for having me. This is my first time really getting the opportunity to talk about the astrophotography stuff. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. So, just give people a bit of a background on you. Your journey. What it was that led you to your love of space, because I think I kind of know, because we both met some pretty cool people at one of our competitions in engineering. But just fill us in, maybe fill me in on that, and we'll just riff from there.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. So, I got into engineering at UNB just because I knew I wanted to do something related to space. I've always wanted to be kind of an astronaut ever since I was a kid, and that comes with a lot of question marks. Like, how do you do that? The first option I was presented with as, a kid coming out of high school was, join the Air Force, become a fighter pilot. That's the straight shot. Chris Hadfield did that, and many other astronauts we know and love did that. So I went that route initially. And I did, the air crew selection for the Air Force and everything. And, it just, something struck me that it just wasn't the right way to do it. I'm not really a person that I think would thrive in a military environment. I like a schedule, I like structure, but not to that extent. So then I was able to pivot. I got this opportunity, like you were talking about that engineering competition. I met a Canadian Space Agency engineer, I guess even more than an engineer now. She's one of the top people at the agency, and she was impressed by what we did at this competition by making a centrifugal pump out of garbage, basically. And she basically got me a job, a co-op job in Ottawa, working for a really cool space company called Neptech. And that kind of started the ball rolling on me being aware that the engineering route, I can aim to go to space someday, and I think that will get me in a really cool place even if I don't make it there. So after my engineering, after the co-op, I went back, finished my undergrad, and then was able to get into the master's program at UNB, where it's basically a brand new type of master's for UNB, where it's kind of like a design and also analysis master's. Like, it's a MSc, so it's like a Master of Science in Engineering. But usually people focus on like one specific topic and beat it to death and write a 100-page thesis about it. I actually had two topics within my one. And I was essentially, doing the mechanical design and analysis and simulation for the Violet CubeSat, which is New Brunswick's first satellite mission. So, two topics, whole lot of work. Took about 2.5 years to get this done. Just wrapped it up, and we're scheduled for launch, I think, in fall of 2022.
That's awesome.
So it's coming up, and yeah, it's we got delayed by COVID and everything, and plans changed, and all that. There's the chip shortage going on, so we're trying to find components for the satellite itself. So
yeah, sorry to cut you off there, but just so people are who are listening know, you actually designed and built a satellite that's going to space, correct?
Yeah, so I was one of the, I think there's the hierarchy at UNB for the CubeSat project is like professors, which are in the space world and space systems world, is they're called principal investigators. So kind of like scientists run the show. In our case, that's the professors, and then below them is us graduate students. So there's about 5 of us, so we're all the project managers. So I was the mechanical project manager, and I worked a bit on outreach. So yeah, I was in charge of basically organizing like how all the stuff mechanically was done, but I was also the only mechanical engineer for like, 2 years. So I had a lot on my plate to deal with. So I did most of the actual mechanical design for the satellite. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what I remember at one point there was, a lot of 3D printed parts. What did the satellite end up being made out of?
So it's like the structure is made out of CNC'd 6061 aluminum. And all the external like kind of interfacing parts of the satellite that interface with the deployer that like launches the satellite into space while it's in space is it's all anodized.
Cool.
Because in space, if you have aluminum and aluminum just touching, just like bare machined aluminum, it could cold weld. So when you anodize it, it makes it almost a little more like little less friction, and there's no cold welding that occurs, because we're basically like pushing these little satellites that are like about the size of a loaf of bread out of like a big steel like silo that has like multiple ports in it. I guess you have all these satellites basically stuffed in this big deployer, and then like kind of the flap opens and the spring pushes them out, and that's how they get deployed from the space station.
That's cool. Okay, so they're gonna go up, get taken up by rocket to the space station, and then deployed directly from the station.
Yeah, that's right. They're going up on a Falcon 9 on a crew resupply mission. So if anyone's, or you or anyone's familiar, they're going on a Dragon, just the cargo Dragon.
That's amazing.
And then they'll get basically offloaded by the astronauts in their big, like, soft stow bags, this like big deployer unit. And then eventually, I guess, when the astronauts have time, they'll put it at the robotics airlock, and the Japanese robotic arm will basically point the deployer, and then they'll launch them 30-minute intervals, I think, until all the CubeSats are launched.
That's incredible. Man, that's cool. Because but back when, many people who are listening probably don't know this, but back when I was in university and you and I were going through together, I was involved in the rocket club. So this is all. It's been a second since I looked into that world again. So this is getting me excited here as we chat.
Yeah, man, the Rocket Club, that brings me back, and our good friend Andreas Marquis too, who's he's actually working with a really cool startup right now called Space Ride, and they're like they're going to be one of the first Canadian companies to like build and launch their own rocket into low Earth orbit, and it's basically a pretty small rocket that's just goes to space in a stratospheric balloon, and then there's like this gimbal system that points it, and then it launches it. It's super cool. So we're all kind of. Yeah,
that's cool. So you did all that, got that done, super exciting. And now, we were chatting before that there is, there's some exciting opportunities with the space agency, that you're working on getting sorted out, right?
Yeah, we're working on getting that sorted out. It's it's tough with COVID. The agency's been shut down, not shut down, but it hasn't been open access to all its employees since March of 2020. So it's supposed to open in January, at which time I would be able to go there and work. But it's still up in the air. We got that new variant, so Montreal definitely has quite the population. So we're just taking it day by day. So should know soon, but I'm just trying to stay patient and doing a lot of astrophotography stuff. So keep me occupied.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's dive into that. But I mean, it's so cool to have watched your journey and the work that you've put in, and the baby steps. It's you've had this goal for a long time, but to see some of that come to fruition it's awesome. To have seen that happen for you. So you've been involved in space stuff for a while. And how did the astrophotography come about? What kind of made you say, hey, let's give this a shot? And then how many thousands of dollars did you spend on equipment after that?
Yeah. Well, so I saw this picture. I was actually looking for a background on my phone for like a good moon picture, and I was just looking around, and I was like, oh, let's see what NASA's got. And I was like, okay, well, I'm on Instagram. I started looking around, and I found this guy that was taking just insane pictures of space, and I was like, okay, there's no way you can do that as just a normal person without like $100,000 worth of equipment. Like, there's no chance. Like, how the heck do you do that? So then I, barely any research. I buy a $150 telescope on Amazon, just like plastic. Like if a slight gust of wind came, it would like vibrate like that. Like just the worst, but I got one picture of the moon through it, and I was like, wow, like just with my phone, like holding it against the eyepiece. I was like,
Yeah,
damn,
yeah.
that's cool. Okay, like, okay, there's room for improvement here for sure. Like, sent that telescope back.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
instantly the next day, I was like, this is garbage. I need better. Then I, was researching, what's a kind of entry telescope to get, like system. I found this one. It was like $700. It was like, had a like motorized. It's like, oh yeah, this is the ticket. This is the one right here. Um, and then I luckily found the same model on Kijiji being sold in Fredericton for like $350. So I just scooped that up. And that was the telescope I started astrophotography on. And it was, well, we don't really have to get into like all the mechanical complexities of what works and what doesn't, but basically this telescope I got didn't really work. I could take like 20-second exposures, whereas now I can take like 10-minute exposures. So it was quite the difference in just how it's actuated and how it tracks the night sky. So I ended up selling that semi recently after I optimized it and got what I could out of it and kind of pushed the upper limit of what's possible with that system. I think I sold it about 6 months ago. And then, but I think last Christmas I got a telescope that was at smaller, shorter focal length. It's like shorter focal length basically means you're less zoomed in. So I got a
Sure.
shorter focal length, but it was made better. It was like all aluminum, all these glass elements in it that really really nice. And so I started kind of building that system, and that's the one I currently use. And all the pictures I have, of deep sky objects, it's from that new system.
That's awesome. Let's take a look at the pictures too, so people who are watching live or on YouTube can see this. And if you're listening to the podcast after, just head over to YouTube. You'll find it. So I'm gonna take a look here. Is there a favorite that you have? And you just emailed these to me before. Is there one that you'd like to look at here first?
I mean, there's three of them here that are taken with my telescope, and there's one that was kind of a multi-panel, like a vertical panorama, so multi pictures with a wide angle lens, so like
Okay.
just a camera and like a big fisheye lens, and that's the Milky Way one. And I think that's my favorite because I basically snuck into Hopewell Park with my friend Josh this summer around my birthday, and it was just such a magical experience because the sky there is so dark. Like I couldn't even find the North Star. I
Wow.
usually can find it within seconds, and that's how I like align my mounts and how it basically knows how to track the night sky because everything rotates around north, right? The
Yeah.
Earth
Yeah.
rotates. So the night sky, all the stars, if you took a really really long exposure, you just see the North Star basically staying in one place and everything rotating around it.
Hmm.
So it was so dark there that I couldn't even find the North Star. Like there was so many stars in the sky. So it was beautiful. And we spent about 4 hours out there. I think this is about 2.5 hours of the night sky part. And
Wow.
what this image is it's called a composite. So I took the Milky Way images from a higher vantage point, and then I took the foreground images from a lower vantage point, so I could make it look better.
Sure.
Essentially, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. This is beautiful. So this picture, it's a couple pictures. Do you layer everything too to get the different colors?
Yeah, so I with my camera, especially out in dark skies, I just use like a filter that blocks like UV and infrared light. So it
Mhm.
basically gets rid of the red tinge, because I have a modified camera and we can get into
Sure.
that after, but you basically just modify it so it's more sensitive to, the red wavelengths of light, there's a lot of that stuff in space. So I use that filter. And I took about probably for each of the two sky panels, I probably took an hour and 15 minutes each.
That's cool.
And then you stack those, and what image stacking does, it reduces noise. So when you're just taking a picture of the night sky and you just take one, if you zoom in, it's like, you might see a little red pixel or like pixel noise of just random colors, or it might be really fuzzy and you can't make out details. What stacking the images does is it cleans that up and makes you be able to see what's actually there. So like, that sky is black, or there's purple there, there's yellow there, whatever color it is. it just enables you to edit it and sharpen it better because there's less noise, and you really know like what pixel is what color.
That's incredible. Yeah. So you take the time to take the pictures, and then how many hours of editing would this take after?
So this was probably my 5th revision of this image. So my initial sit down, I probably spent about 6 hours editing it. And then, 2-hour increments for each one. So, I would say for this image, it was at least like 12 to 18 hours I'll put into it. And then plus the actual time spent preparing and out there taking the images.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's an art piece as well as a science piece is really what it is. And
yeah.
I'm going to show people here, but you actually have these on Etsy as well. So I'm going to drop the links on Facebook and YouTube. But he's got these prints that he's taken as well. So this one here, you can grab it, and then this one here. So let's look at some of the other ones. This is the California one you said.
Yeah, so that's the California Nebula. It's just a massive object. Like I think it's like a couple thousand light years in diameter. And it's a couple thousand light years away. So I mean, if you were in a dark enough place, you'd be able to see it in the sky. Like it's not like insanely large in the night sky, but probably, if you looked up, it would be the width of your hand in the night sky. So pretty significant.
So do you have to go outside the city to get less light pollution and make it a lot easier for photos, or can you do this right from within the city?
So I don't have to go outside the city because I have some light pollution filters. Like this was taken on University Avenue, downtown Fredericton.
Okay.
From my girlfriend's back deck.
Yes.
But the Milky Way picture was taken in dark skies, and unless you're in dark skies, you're gonna have trouble getting like true RGB color to show in your image. There's no replacement for a dark sky. There's all these different filters you can use that I do use, like a kind of light pollution filter that's just kind of reduces the effects of light pollution in a city, so it doesn't completely kill your color. And then you have narrowband filters, which really only let in a very specific sliver of a type of light, which is in this image is called hydrogen alpha. So that's like the reds you see. And like with the Heart Nebula, like we were just looking at in the Etsy shop, that's also a primarily hydrogen alpha rich target in the night sky. Yeah, so it's mostly red. And but yeah, so there's basically 3 most important bands in astrophotography and even astronomy. It's what the Hubble Space Telescope uses to take most of its images, and it's sulfur 2, hydrogen alpha, and oxygen 3. So those correspond to red, green, and blue, where red is hydrogen alpha, I think blue is sulfur 2, and then green is oxygen 3. So those are where all you see those like false color, like Hubble images that, this actually in a false color Hubble image would look more kind of like orange and blue. But I just took it primarily with hydrogen alpha to really get that red to pop, because it is a heart after all.
Yeah, this is beautiful. This would be a space lover's Valentine card cover right here.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I should have dropped this one around Valentine's Day instead of Christmas.
You can drop it again.
Oh, definitely.
I love it, man. So you got this one, this stuff. Like it's so cool to hear you chat too, because you're fired up, and I know there's some fellow space lovers out there. We all, I think there's, we could get really, really deep and philosophical on it, but every one of us has this longing or this desire to look at the night sky. Right. And it kind of draws you in. You feel connected to something bigger than yourself. I think Chris Hadfield has said it multiple different ways, but you start to see how insignificant you are, how insignificant your problems are when you look at this sort of stuff. And I think that, that for me, that's the draw here, is that you've taken the time, you've turned this into an art form, but you're capturing, what is out there. So it's amazing, man.
Well, it's so cool too, because it's not visible. Like you can't just see it. If you get an absolute cannon of a telescope, like massive tube bucket of light, you can see this stuff, but it looks like if you looked at this one, this is the Andromeda Galaxy, and I took a little artistic license with the color here. This was in my this was my first time editing a galaxy, which galaxies
I
are
love
really
it.
hard to edit,
I
especially
can
when they're
imagine.
not like super dark skies. So I shot this one from downtown Fredericton. So I anyway. Um, yeah, no, the draw is just incredible though. Like just getting out there and being under the stars and you know, you look up and you can't see the stuff that's there, but then you know, you start getting these images start rolling in and you're taking like a, you know, 5-10 minute exposure and you just see this thing that you look up and can't see at all. And it's so cool. It's magical every time. I love it.
It is. It is magical. I'm gonna be snagging one of these after. So you've got the Etsy store here. I will, like I said, I'll drop this in the links. So tell people what they're going to be getting here when they order this.
Yeah, so I've been working with a local print shop called what was called KKP. I think they just got bought by someone. But anyway, I wanted to do it locally just for my first time doing this. So I've been working with them since July, doing
Mhm.
test prints as kind of I've progressed these images because each of these images that are on my Etsy shop have, you know, have had multiple iterations and evolutions. Just as I've added data to them and learned new processing techniques to basically enhance it, make it look better and more real.
Yeah.
And so I worked with this print shop, and what you're getting is two different images sizes, but the printer we're using is a 10 ink large format printer on really high quality photo paper. So I just wanted to make sure like these prints were high quality. I wasn't just like drop shipping them from Toronto and had no idea like what the quality was, or, you know, I didn't want to compromise in that respect. So I worked with them for, you know, multiple iterations to choose the paper and the inks that we were going to use. So we settled on this really nice large format printer that's, you know, about the size of a fridge on its side. So they're,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Gotta
so it's
get
high
something
quality
big enough
in
to.
a nice. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say you got to get something big enough to fit the whole galaxy in, right? And put that on paper.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's the goal someday to be able to print like massive, like, you know, a wall size print or something. You know, just like something absolutely ridiculous of the Milky Way. There's some people I look up to, other astrophotographers that do really incredible work, like really cool stuff. So you know, I hope to
Man,
get there someday.
you're doing really cool stuff. This is amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And the question, because there's a lot of people in the States that watch this. So can you ship to the States as well?
I don't right now. It was easier not to.
Mhm.
I think, you know, if there was interest, if there's enough interest, I probably would change that. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
No, that's perfect. When you do open it up, the $30 Canadian is like $5 US. So it's steal of
Yeah.
steal of a deal. That's man, that's incredible. So yeah, tell us what the, you know, as we kind of wrap up here, tell us what the process and the journey is for you from here.
Yeah, man, I mean, that's always a question that's on my mind. Always something I'm kind of wrestling with and and working with. But you know, I'm still in a place where I don't know the path forward. I don't know exactly what's going to get me to where, in my mind, I think I want to be. You know, I know I want to be an influential person in the field of space and science. I want to inspire young people to, you know, take a journey like this or something similar. Opportunities are becoming they're becoming more prevalent. When we were doing our undergrad, I had to, you know, I wouldn't say fight is the right word, but you know, I got lucky, you know, in the opportunities I got. And I don't like that. I want people to be able to decide,
Sure.
not have to like weasel their way around or like, you know, like try to find an opportunity that isn't there. Because you know, people in Ontario, Quebec, and BC, they have all the opportunities with this stuff, like so many, and it's time for New Brunswick to have that too. So I think a big part of what I want to do is you know, similar to that and kind of like mentorship and helping people get to where, if they want to go this route, help them do that, while being kind of like, you know, a person they can look up to and do that. And then on the other side of things, with me looking forward and also looking back, but this is me looking forward, is find something that I can sink my teeth into, like another project. You know, whether that's design related, whether that's working on a space mission, human or not, so like robotic or human, or doing operations. So operations is really cool to me. So that's kind of like the mission control stuff you see. It's a little less romantic than that. You know, it's like a lot of shift work and really stressful times. That with not a lot of fanfare around it, but
Yeah.
working on ISS operations, so working on Canadarm operations where you kind of calculate all the different loads that the Canadarm may experience or kind of plan the missions for it. You know, if there's a spacewalk or whatever, just working with mission control, being their kind of systems engineer arm of that to help them make informed decisions and plan their missions accordingly. So I find that really cool too. So I don't know, I'm just kind of see where I go in the next couple months and make informed decisions as I go.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing, and we can have the most elaborate path laid out, but ultimately it comes down to where do you put your foot down for the next step. So that's, man, I'm excited for you. This has been cool to touch back in and see what you're doing. If you could, looking back on the journey, if you could tell someone, or maybe tell yourself when you're just coming out of high school something, what would you say is a nugget that you've picked up of knowledge, of wisdom, of experience, whatever the case may be?
Well, I have ADHD, so I tell myself to be more patient. And I would also say, like you can't focus on the things you can't control. Like literally you can't. Like if you focus on the things you control, it's gonna drain your battery like you're gaming on a 14-inch laptop. Like you are gonna lose that battle. So focus on the things you can control, and eventually the things you can't control will likely become things that you can't control. So that is a thing that I would tell myself, along with being patient.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Well, I really appreciate catching up. We'll wrap up off here, but where can people find or follow you? This journey going forward. Obviously, there's the Etsy store, but is there a presence on Instagram that they can follow? How can people keep in touch with us?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My astrophotography page is at astropics by Diddy. Diddy's my name. So yeah, you can find me there. You can find I post most of my images there, and just in a way that Instagram can handle it. And I'm working on my Astrobin page right now, which is a place kind of that you can go to see astrophotographers work in full resolution, whereas Instagram, downscales everything. So I'm working on that, but once that's ready, it'll be linked on my Instagram page. But where you can find me right now is at that Astropics by Diddy.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I've really enjoyed this. This has got me excited about the topic because it's been a second since I revisited it. But man, appreciate you coming on. People go follow him. There's some big things that are coming down the line, and this I've been watching you steadily crank out the photos, and I'm excited to see what else happens. So, guys, appreciate you showing up. Appreciate you listening in. Share out the podcast, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And Diddy and Alex and I will wrap up off air, and you guys have a great day.